What is up, my beautiful people? Welcome back to the Made to Excel Fitness Podcast, the fitness podcast for you, by you. I'm your host, as always, Mark Torres, and in today's episode number 46, I'm going to tell you 3 tips to making your workouts instantly better, like right now, not later, right now. Let's talk about it.
Oh, you mean right now? Yeah. I can't do it right now. When? Shit, probably later. Later. But not right now.
What's up, y'all? Welcome to the show. Welcome to the 46th episode of the Made to Excel Fitness Podcast. Welcome back. Welcome to the show. I've said that already. One thing that I've learned very harshly today is that podcasting is very much so like a muscle. You've got to work it out. You've got to find a groove. If you can find a groove and you can find a routine that you like and you can live in that space for as long as you can, that's a really great thing to do. Of course, nobody ever lives in a groove for forever. Things come up, things happen. You kind of go up and down, right? But trying to minimize those up and downs as much as possible is obviously optimal way to go. But of course, I took a few weeks off, and luckily, episodes 44 and 45, which are the last 2 episodes, the first 2 episodes of the new batch, went by without a hitch. Did it in one shot. Things were great. Still felt a little bit weird. It feels a little bit foreign to be sitting in front of a camera and talking. Also, feels very weird to have a microphone. That's new to me, or to be holding it at least. But it went by without a hitch. But this episode 46, this is take like 5, 6, 7, somewhere in that range. And to be completely fair, I'm recording this on a Tuesday. Typically, I record Thursday mornings. So I'm only technically 2 days ahead of schedule. But what happens on Wednesday, what happens on Thursday, is I've got a decently long commute. And on those commutes, I'm pretty much talking through the podcast, right? I'm able to work out the kinks. I'm able to work out the sticking points that I'll have, and I can do it in the car. So when people drive by me, they probably think I'm crazy. I guess to be fair, people have Bluetooth speakers in their phone or speakers in the car now. You can talk to people without ever having to touch your phone. So that is a thing. But I am literally talking through the podcast in my car from Wednesday to Thursday. And then I record it Thursday morning, and then it comes out not the week after, but the week after that, right? So I'm able to talk through those things out, but I'm really kind of doing it on camera, right? So this is take like 6, 7 of this podcast, of this episode, the Made to Excel Fitness Podcast. But fret not, we are going to have a great episode no matter what. We're going to get through it, right? Deep breath. A little ASMR for you guys out there. Today's episode is obviously all about the 3 tips that are going to make your workout instantly better. Like, these are things that you can do right now. If you're going to work out later on today, tomorrow, in the next couple of days, these are tips that you can take into the gym, into your workout immediately, right? In this podcast, I talk a lot about behavioral changes. I talk a lot about mindset things, right? Things that are going to affect you in the long run. Things that are going to allow you to have long-term success. And these immediate tips are going to help you with those things. But I talk about things that are maybe implemented over a long period of time, right? Because mindset's so important. A lot of people can greatly benefit from a change in mindset, right? If you have the wrong mindset going into a workout, going into really anything you do, you've pretty much lost the war before even starting your first battle, right? Mindset's uber important. When I talk about nutrition, obviously I'm not a nutritionist, I'm not a dietitian. These people go to school for a very long time to be able to tell you very specifically what you should and should not be eating. But I can give you kind of these nutritional oversights and these nutritional kind of, not guidelines, but nutritional kind of vague guidelines, I would say. And those are things that you implement over a long period of time. But these 3 tips you can do right here, right now. Not right here, right now, because you're probably not listening to this in a gym. You're probably listening to this at work, in your car, whatever. But these are tips that you can implement immediately. So without further ado, let's get into the 3 tips to make your workout better immediately. Tip number 1 is to slow down. When you're walking into a gym, whether you're a beginner, intermediate, advanced lifter, doesn't really matter. There's probably a million different things that are going on in your mind at any given moment, right? If you're walking into a gym and the gym is packed and the first thing on your workout list for the day is barbell squats and all the squat racks are being taken, odds are you're thinking, man, what am I going to do? I have no equipment to do my workout. I've got to switch it up maybe a little bit here. What is my next option, right? Or I've got to warm up and there's no treadmills. How do I warm up now? Or if you are doing an exercise, you might be thinking about any one of a variety of different cues that a trainer or a coach has given you to try to help you do that movement correctly, right? There's a million things that could be going on in your mind. You could be completely disconnected to the gym, right? You're doing a bicep curl, but you're thinking about how the next episode of WandaVision is going to end, right? There's a million different things that you can be thinking about in the gym at any given moment. But one of the things that you might not be thinking about maybe enough is how fast you're doing an exercise, right? And for a lot of different situations, speed is a good thing. The quicker you do things, the more effective you are, the more time you have to do other things. Speed is typically great, right? If you're not first, you're last.
If you ain't first, you're last. You know what I'm talking about? That phrase, trademark, not to use that tradition of Ricky Bobby.
But in this particular situation, speed is maybe a little bit of a detriment. Of course, depending on your particular situation, depending on where you're implementing the speed, right? Why speed is important is, I'm going to pop into videos right here, is right before I started recording this podcast episode, I did 2 sets of squats, right? Same weight, same amount of reps, but I did it with different tempos, right? So I did a 35-pound dumbbell, I did 10 reps, I did 1 quick set, 1 slower set. The quick set took about 15 seconds to do 10 reps. The same amount of weight, same amount of reps, did it slower, it took about 35 seconds. So over double the amount of time, right? Over 20 seconds more to do the slower set versus the quicker set. Why is that a big deal? When we talk about creating tension, when you do a slower set, you create more than double, depending on how slow you do things. In this particular situation, I more than doubled the amount of tension that I created within that squat just by slowing down, right? Why is tension important? Tension creates stimulation. Stimulation creates fatigue. Fatigue creates adaptation and recovery. If you've not seen the YouTube video, How to Create a Simple Workout Plan, pop it in right here. Definitely go check that out. If you're listening audio only, obviously you didn't see the pop in, head over to my YouTube channel, MTE Fit. It is a video between episodes 43 and 44. It's about 10 minutes long. It'll tell you exactly how muscle building occurs and how you can implement that information to create your own workout program going forward. It is an awesome video. Not to toot my own horn, but there's a lot of great information in there that you guys can utilize also immediately, right? So creating tension is a good thing, especially if you want to build muscle. If that's your ultimate goal, if that's your main goal, is to build muscle, tension is a fantastic thing. You want to create tension. So without changing the weight, without changing the rep scheme, I was able to create more than double the amount of tension just by slowing down. That's going to be uber important for those of you who want to build muscle. Creating more tension, great. The other thing that comes with slowing down is more focus on your technique. You can probably more easily spot things that you're doing correctly or incorrectly over the course of any movement if you're doing it slowly, right? If you're busting through a movement, it's going to be hard to pinpoint some of the things that maybe you can work on a little bit, right? Slowing down is going to help you with your technique. Slowing down is going to help you feel the workout where you want to feel it, right? Just from a technique standpoint, it's going to be so much easier to see where to fix things if you're doing it slower, right? Of course, speed is not always, or slower speed, I should say, is not always the best thing, right? It's totally situational, right? For the most part, for most of your workout, for most of you guys listening to this podcast episode, slowing down is going to vastly improve your workouts. But if you're doing something like CrossFit, if you're doing a finisher workout where your workout is timed and you want to beat a time and you want to get faster, of course, don't slow down your squats deliberately because it's going to negatively affect the score that you get. Or if you're a person who is very, very short on time, of course, if your typical workout takes half an hour and in that half an hour you're used to doing that 15-second set of squats and you more than double the amount of time it takes for you to do a certain exercise, you're effectively taking a 30-minute workout and making it a 65-minute workout without ever changing the content of that workout, right? So if you are very short on time and you do not want to, and you do not have the capacity to double your workout time, then maybe slowing down, especially to that extent, is not going to be beneficial for you, right? Slowing down a little bit maybe a little bit of a more focus on tension and technique is going to be great, but maybe not to that extent where you're slowing down that much. Or maybe slow down, see how it feels, and start to adjust the contents of your workout to kind of, play both sides here, right? Slow down a little bit, but still keep your workout time frame intact. It's going to be different for everybody. Everybody's situation is different, but think about the tempo that's going to work best for you, for your goals, in order to build muscle. So for most people, that is going to be tip number 1, slow down. Tip number 2 to make your workouts immediately better is to keep it simple. In the gym, it's typically, I would say, more of the advanced people. I see people doing these very complicated, very fancy workouts, right? Somebody is balancing on one leg, doing a row, then a clean, then a press, then flipping it to the ground and doing a press there and doing a whole bunch of crazy stuff, right? That's an exaggeration, obviously, but things that are maybe outside of the basics, right? People that are really fit tend to do these things. And for some people, once again, everything in fitness is situational. For some people, that might be what they need to do, right? The more advanced you get, the more gains that you have already received, the harder it is to get further gains. So you might need to do a little bit and be a little bit kind of, what's the word I'm looking for? A little bit fancier with your workouts in order to elicit more gains than what you already currently have. But for a lot of people, unless you are at that point where you're scraping and scraping, you can barely get gains, you probably don't need to overcomplicate your workouts. Even to that point, even as you get more advanced, there's probably different things that you can do in terms of manipulating the amount of sets, the amount of reps, even cough, cough, wink, wink, the tempo that you use, tip number 1. Those things will help you make a workout more difficult if that's what you need in order to continue to make progress, right? So if you're going to do something, let's say a row, right? A row, you have a barbell row or a dumbbell row. You can do it single hand or kind of unilaterally, single or both hands at the same time, bilaterally. Those are kind of the quote unquote basic rows. But if you're going to do something like a pause row where you're holding one and you're rowing the other, or you're doing something else fancy, whatever those fancy manipulations of the row may be, ask yourself, why is it that you're doing it?
Why?
Do you think that you've already kind of gone to the end of the basic barbell and dumbbell rows that you can't possibly make it any harder? Because there's always a little bit of a more difficult iteration of a particular exercise that is still within the basics of the staple. You can still always make it harder. You can still always progress. So if you've got a very good reason, which some people very well may have a good reason to do a fancier iteration of a quote unquote simple or basic staple workout, then go ahead and do that. But for most of you guys, ask yourself, why is it that you're doing a particular exercise? If you don't have a good answer to the why, then probably you don't need to do it, right? Keep it simple, stick to the basics, manipulate the basics to work within your means, to work within your goals, to work within the progress that you want to make, and then go from there. There's no need to overcomplicate a workout and to make a workout more difficult and more confusing if you don't need to. Keep it simple. It's going to make your life that much easier going forward. Tip number 2, keeping it simple. Last but not least, tip number 3 is to explore. So this is a little bit counterintuitive to tip number 2, keep it simple. Tip number 3 is to explore. When I say explore, there's many things in the gym that are foreign to maybe some different people, right? So for example, I had somebody the other day ask me about 2 different exercise machines. They're both back machines, but the angle is a little bit different. He said, what is the difference between these two? Is it working different muscles, or, is it just a different apparatus, right? I said, well, the muscular tension that you feel may change from one machine to the other, especially because the angle is different and the hand placement is different. But try both out, see how they feel, and go from there and see which one you like, see which one feels better, see which one better fits your goals, right? And he's like, that makes sense. Sure, I'll do that, right? A lot of times when you're in the gym, you may be set in your ways a little bit and you do not want to further explore, right? try a different machine, try a different placement on the machine, right? If you're used to doing neutral grip rows, try underhand rows, try overhand rows, right? There's all these different things that you can do. So I talk about keeping it simple, but there are different implementations of the simple staples that you can try, right? Maybe depending on your situation, you don't have to explore within the confines of your meat and potatoes part of your workout. But whenever you're doing sort of these stretching mobility kind of things, you're working with bands, you're working with body weight stuff, explore within those things, right? Whenever you're doing, let's say you grab a resistance band and you do rows, what happens when you do a row and your elbows are nice and tucked into your side versus when you flare your elbows out and they're more parallel to the ground? How does that feel differently to you? Does one or the other better fit your goals? Does one or the other better help you get warmed up for your workouts? Does one or the other feel better for you? Does one cause less pain? Always be exploring in the gym, right? Of course, there's a little bit of a caveat there. Keeping it simple. That doesn't mean take a workout and make it uber complicated. That means explore within the workouts that you have, right? Explore within your mobilities, explore within your finishers, explore within your cooldowns. Try to find different motions that feel great, right? Of course, do it very safely so that you don't hurt yourself, right? Obviously, if you're doing a workout and your back is just flexing and extending like crazy and you're doing crazy weights with this workout, you're putting yourself in a bad position where you could potentially hurt yourself. Don't do that. Try to avoid that as much as possible. But like I said, grabbing the resistance band, rowing with your elbows tucked, rowing with your elbows flared, rowing with external rotation, those are all going to feel very different, and you should try to, within those means, try to see what those all feel like. Try to see which one is going to fit the best for you. So always constantly exploring. Your body's crazy complicated. Try to learn about yourself. Try to learn about the different things that your body can do and where you feel it and how you can further help yourself make progress going forward. That is tip number 3, always exploring. So 1, slow down. 2, keep it simple. 3, always explore. So that is 3 tips that you can take and implement them immediately into your workout program to hopefully improve your workout program and plans and exercises going forward to help you make long, happy, sustainable progress for a very, very, very long time. Hopefully you guys enjoyed that. Without further ado, we're going back to class. Welcome back to the Made to Excel Fitness University of Hard Knocks of Common Sense. Mark Torres, Made to Excel Fitness University of Hard Knocks of Common Sense. On today's syllabus, we are talking about cardio. A lot of people recently have been asking me about cardio. How much cardio should I be doing? What apparatus, what equipment should I be using for cardio? How often during the week should I be doing cardio? Is cardio important? All these different things about cardio, right? I've talked about these things probably over the course of a bunch of different episodes, but never concisely altogether talked about cardio in general, right? So cardio, as stated by the American College of Sports Medicine, ACSM. I don't know if these guidelines have changed over the past few years because this is kind of going back a little bit. They typically recommend that you do like 150 minutes of moderately active or moderate intensity cardio or 75 minutes of highly intense cardio, right? Like I said, those guidelines might have changed. These are things that I should look up before I record the podcast, but I forget to do it, right? So I'm here. It's close enough, right? That is their stance on cardio, right? 150 minutes a week of moderately intense cardio. So if you break that up for 5 different days, that's half an hour each, right? Or 75 minutes of very vigorously intense cardio, right? Depends how you want to break that up. Depends on the days that you're working out, right? So that is, let's say, quote unquote, the golden standard. But what people tend to miss the boat on a little bit is if you are starting at square one, baseline 0, you're not doing any sort of cardio, and that is the golden standard, there are steps within that you have to take before you can get to the golden standard, right? Especially if you want to break up that 150 minutes nicely over the course of 5 days, that's half an hour cardio bouts for 5 different days, right? If you're not in the gym for 5 different days, does that mean you have to do, 2 60-minute bouts and then a 30-minute bout, right? If you're working out 3 days a week, that's a lot of cardio. That's a lot of cardio in a in a shorter period of time of days, right? That's a lot to do. So how do you go about breaking these things up? First and foremost, there's no steadfast rules in working out, right? Your situation is going to be different for everybody. There's nothing that you absolutely have to do aside from like maybe progressive overload. Progressive overload is absolutely needed, but there's different ways to implement progressive overload. If there's no progressive overload, you're not progressing. But aside from progressive overload, there's no things that you absolutely must do in order to make progress, right? It's all within your means. It's all within finding what's going to be the best for you going forward. It's going to be different for everybody, right? So for a person who is doing absolutely no cardio at all right now, if they go to the gym and they start off with 5 minutes of cardio, no matter what it is, that is 15 minutes of cardio that they were not doing before. 15 minutes times 52, not that great at math. I'm going to pop it in right here. It's like a whole bunch of more minutes than you were doing before, right? It's not a lot over the course of one single day, 5 minutes, over the course of a week for 15 minutes. But if you do that consistently, that is a lot more cardio than you were doing before, right? Obviously, that's not a very big step. If you're feeling more adventurous, I typically like to start people off by doing 10 minutes of cardio, whatever that cardio ends up being. Really, the apparatus, the equipment doesn't matter. It's going to be different for everybody. Treadmill, elliptical, bike, whatever, it's going to be different for everybody. People with lower extremity injuries, knees, hips, ankles, whatever, it's going to be probably more beneficial for them to do something like an elliptical or a bike versus the treadmill, right? It's a lot less, it's a lower impact than the treadmill. So the apparatus that you use, the equipment that you use is going to be based on you, right? But starting with 10 minutes bouts whenever you're working out is a really great first step. It's all about these incremental increases in your baseline, right? If you're going from 0 minutes of cardio, doing 10 minutes of cardio 3 times a week for 30 minutes is a big jump. It's far cry from 150 minutes a week, if that's a quote unquote golden standard, but it's a step in the right direction, right? And if you can continue to build on that, that is going to be really great. Do you have to reach 150 minutes of cardio a week? Depends on the person, right? If you have a very active job, if you're walking around a lot, if you're moving constantly, then maybe you don't have to have 150 minutes of cardio. Maybe some of that is taken care of within your active job and you don't have to do as much. If you're a person who does high intensity workouts where you're not necessarily doing cardio, but you're doing like a finisher style workout, you're doing CrossFit that your heart rate is bumping up, you don't have to do 150 minutes, right? So that number is arbitrary. That number is there. That is the golden standard for maybe a lot of people. That doesn't necessarily mean you have to do the 150 minutes, right? It's going to be different for everybody. But making these incremental increases is going to help you out a lot. Maybe you will eventually want to get to that point. It's within your means, within your time frame, within all that stuff. Once you start off with 10 minutes of cardio, maybe instead of maybe bumping up to 11 minutes, maybe you bump up the speed at which you're doing the cardio, right? Incremental increases, don't matter where it is. Incremental increases is going to be the bread and butter that allows you to make progress in the long run, right? So if you're on the treadmill at 3 miles per hour for 10 minutes and you start to feel really good doing that, bump it up to 3.5 miles per hour. See how that feels. Same 10 minutes. The time increase hasn't changed, but the speed changed, right? The intensity at which you do that cardio has changed going forward. That is an incremental increase, right? So you're taking a small step from moderately intense cardio to vigorously intense cardio, right? You're not making this huge jump all at once. People that try to make this huge jump all at once, they typically find it to be too much too quickly and they fall off the wagon, right? You starting off with 0 minutes, moving to 5 minutes, moving to 10 minutes, moving to 15, 20, 25, 30 minutes is going to be much better than somebody who does 0 minutes, then 30 minutes, then back to 0 minutes, then back to 30 minutes, right? And they're stuck on this crazy roller coaster, right? No matter what aspect of fitness you're talking about, whether it be weightlifting, whether it be nutrition, whether it be cardio, there's always going to be ups and downs. But minimizing those ups and downs as much as possible and making the hills smaller and smaller versus this crazy roller coaster, a little bunny hill roller coaster is good. Crazy roller coaster, not good, right? So minimizing the ups and downs you can possibly come across in the wild out there in the gyms, at your home gym, wherever you're working out is going to be the best possible scenario for you guys, right? So starting off small, working towards a bigger goal, right? If you start off with 5 minutes of cardio one time a week, that is an incremental increase from what you were doing before. If that's something that you can do for a long period of time, then stick with that for a long period of time, and then try to build on that as time goes, right? Don't try to do too much at once. It's not going to end well for a lot of people. Small changes. Theory of small changes. I love the theory of small changes. Lots of small changes can make a big result, right? But that wraps up today's episode. 3 tips to make your workout instantly better. Go slower, keep it simple, and explore all the time. And cardio, incremental increases go a long way. We finally made it through the episode. 6 or 7 takes later. That's all it takes, right? Deep breath in, deep breath out. ASMR, MTE Fit style. I'll see you guys in the next one. Peace out. Thanks for listening to the Made to Excel Fitness Podcast, the fitness podcast for you, by you. Hopefully you enjoyed today's episode. If you did, consider hitting the subscribe button wherever you're watching or listening, on YouTube, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, wherever you get your favorite podcasts. New episodes come out every single Monday morning, so hitting the subscribe button ensures that you don't miss out on any new episodes. If you are listening on Apple Podcasts, if you feel so inclined, please leave a 5-star review. It helps others find the show. If you're on YouTube, leave a comment, leave a thumbs up, hit the little bell, lets you know when new videos come out. Follow me on social media, on Instagram at MTE Fit, on Facebook at Made to Excel Fitness. Email me at madetoexcelfitness@gmail.com. Let me know if there's anything that you guys want me to discuss on the show. It is, in fact, the fitness podcast that is for you, by you. I appreciate every single one of you guys that takes the time to listen to me on your Monday morning, wherever you are. I appreciate you all. Thanks for listening.
What's up, Mark? How you doing, man? Hunter Henry, LA Charger tight end. Best big time shout out to your fitness podcast, the Made to Excel Fitness Podcast. So super cool, man. Got a lot going on. Bolt ganger, don't bang.